But I do think we need a national reckoning from the top, from the Secretary of Defense, because 77% of people aren't eligible to join the military who are 21 right now, from the Secretary of the Treasury, because we're going to go bankrupt with healthcare costs, from the president. We need a national call to action that we got to get back to basics on whole food. I mean, we've got to get back to where, frankly, Japan or some countries in Europe, they're close to 20% of their diet. We're getting closer to 70% ultra processed food. So if we can just get back to whole food, to seafood is part of our medical budget. I mean, getting back to basics on food will save us trillions of dollars of healthcare costs, because 9 out of 10 killers of Americans are essentially food-related metabolic conditions. So that's where the rubber hits the road. And I feel for parents who are busy, and single moms. But again, we need some leadership. I mean, we're poisoning our kids. We've totally lost our way with kind of the convenience of processed food and thinking that's okay. And we need to just have the clinical discussion about that. And if we can take 70% down to closer to 20% of ultra processed food consumption, our country would be transformed.
But a lot of people watching and listening are going, Calley, I get it, it's bad for you, but it's expensive.
Right.
To get whole foods, we try to go to the farmer's market once a week, try to get whole food, try to get vegetables and fruits.
Right.
It's significantly more expensive.
Yeah.
And that's the pushback for a lot of people. And I get it. We want to try to figure out a solution where we can help everyone, but the reality is it's either bad or it's good. And it's bad.
Right. Top down. This is what I've been working on with anyone who'll listen. And I want to tell everyone, I actually think it is very possible and can happen very quickly. And I anyone who'll listen to me, and I've been speaking with, a number of the folks in the conversation right now, it's a 3-point plan. We've talked a lot about it already. Get corruption out of the medical guidelines. The science has to be right. Because if there's a report saying the truth, I think, about glyphosate, which is that it is a neurotoxin and causing irreparable harm to our microbiomes and our children's future, like we can make it work. I mean, we're sending God knows how much money to Ukraine. We've spent trillions of dollars on COVID protocols. If the science is accurate, so get the science right. I just cannot stress that enough. I want to report on artificial colorings, what they're doing to our kids. I want to report on glyphosate. We want to report on ultra-processed food, maybe like the Surgeon General did with the smoking. We need scientific documentation that's not corrupt. That's point number one. Point number two is attack the incentives. The fact that non-poison food is demonstrably more expensive than poison food makes no sense. It's not the free market. It is not the free market when 10% of all food stamps are going to sugar water, are going to soda. The number one item on food stamps, which 10% of the American people, the neediest Americans, depend on for their basic nutrition, goes to soda. It's not right that 60% of food stamps go to ultra-processed food. This is not what they do in Europe. This is suicidal policy to be shoving addictive, toxic, non-nutritious crap down lower-income kids' throats so that they rack up trillions of dollars of health concerns later on. We spend $1.5 trillion on Medicaid, on the program for lower-income folks. We spend more to treat people with metabolic disorders on Medicaid than the defense budget. Okay? So we're poisoning our kids with ultra-processed food and soda on food stamps, and then spending, over the next 10 years, tens of trillions of dollars to clean up the mess. It makes zero sense. Michelle Obama was right early on about the school lunches. One of the top sources of calories for children is federally subsidized school lunch programs. There are no nutrition guidelines, literally none. There is no sugar protocols. There's no you can only have this much added sugar. There is zero firm guidelines on federal school lunch subsidies, which just doesn't make sense. I mean, whether you're conservative or liberal, if you're going to spend $130 billion a year on food stamps, you shouldn't be poisoning lower income people. It is perfectly appropriate to have an opinion on where that money should go to. That is not a free market. It is a totally rigged market. And then, of course, agriculture subsidies. 90+% of ag subsidies, and we spend more subsidizing our agriculture than the rest of the world combined, go to the components of ultra-processed food, corn, soy, wheat. Less than 1% go to fruits and vegetables, which are considered a specialty crop. So we have a totally rigged agriculture subsidy system that's basically forcing farmers into industrial farming, ultra-processed food system. So very quickly, clean up the incentives. Why is an avocado so much more expensive than, a bag of crap that's super processed? Okay, that's number 2. That can happen almost immediately. And number 3 is flexibility with healthcare dollars. So I don't think people fully understand how one size fits all our system is. So think about somebody that's pre-diabetic. They're getting on government paid, often metformin for life. If you have heart disease, you're getting government paid statins for life. Now, if you're obese, you're getting probably Ozempic for life. If you're depressed, you're getting SSRIs for life. So we're spending an inordinate amount of money on this care. And by not curing the root cause of the diabetes, right, which is metabolic dysfunction, and just pilling one biomarker, people are going to rack up other comorbidities and get sicker and rack up more costs. So that's the system we're on. Why I think HSAs are such an important part of the solution, these health savings accounts, these flexible accounts, is that then allows that patient, when they're pre-diabetic, to use their medical dollars for other items. So again, I am not lecturing what a patient and a doctor should decide on to treat their specific conditions. What I'm emphatically saying is we should not have a one-size-fits-all system. That patient often right now, unless they have an HSA, can't explore other routes, like potentially using their HSA for food, exercise, supplementation. With COVID, we saw this. People were very vitamin D deficient, and if you did simple vitamin D supplementation, it was a very effective intervention. That's the case with almost every condition. If you do a blood test and use your HSA dollars for more in-depth functional medicine blood tests, you'll inevitably see that you have some nutrient deficiencies and have some personalized issues that it's not a drug deficiency. You can solve with supplementation, you can solve with exercise, you can solve with food, and you can work on a plan with your doctor to do that. This is not like lecturing people about eating, but it's like, that's just clinically the right thing to do. So I think healthcare policy needs to trust the American patient, trust that they're not trying to be lazy and kill themselves, and trust that they can be empowered to work with medical providers to get to the right answer and not have just a drug shoved down their throat for chronic conditions. So a big push, it's in the Republican platform right now, that the central tenet of healthcare policy is benefit flexibility, expansion, and chronic disease prevention. It's something that is being talked about across the political aisle. But if we can shift more of that $4.5 trillion, from a one-size-fits-all system where, as I said, Medicaid is just, paying out for drug annuities, where a diabetic person at 30 years old is costing the U.S. taxpayer millions, literally millions of dollars with other comorbidities. What if we shifted Medicaid itself to a flexible account where a lower income single mom, if she's dealing with prediabetes and then her kid is obese, can actually work with medical providers to use this substantial amount of money we're already spending to potentially do a more personalized plan to get their kid healthier for life? That'd be a much better system. So those are the 3 tiers. Get corruption out, work on flexibility, and then fix the incentives.